It was not very surprising that the Indiana Fever went down to the Minnesota Lynx, but this game ended up getting quite physical with some elbows to the face.
Fans couldn't believe what they saw. Lexie Hull took a shot so dirty, it had everyone fuming. And the timing couldn't have been worse. It came right on the heels of all the drama with Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham. Now Indiana Fever fans are fed up, players are left confused, and once again, the league is silent. Business as usual. So let's break down exactly what went down last night and why this moment has everyone talking.
On hold there, but then that is a technical.
That is a technical. Dead ball, contact.
Do you think the WNBA protects Caitlin Clark and her teammates enough? Or are they just left hanging? Let me know in the comments. Now, let's set the stage. This wasn't just another rough game. This was Minnesota versus Indiana, and it felt less like basketball and more like a fight night special. Fans were already on edge because the Fever's season has been hanging by a thread. Caitlin Clark has been banged up, the team can't find any rhythm, and every game feels like survival mode. Add in Sophie Cunningham's reputation for stirring the pot, and you just knew something wild was coming. But here's the twist. Nobody expected it to be Lexie Hull taking the damage. One brutal play, an elbow straight to the face, and suddenly the game went from physical to downright reckless. Fans were stunned, players froze, and yet again, the refs swallowed the whistle.
On hold there, but then that is a technical.
That is a technical. Dead ball, contact.
The play looked rough in the moment, but the slow-mo replays made it sting deeper. You could catch Aaliyah Boston's face, that oh no look that basically screamed how painful it really was. And let's be honest, this wasn't some clumsy, harmless accident. That swinging elbow from Kayla McBride felt deliberate. Fans on social media spotted it right away, saying it was just another chapter of the Fever getting battered while refs and league officials stood frozen, doing absolutely nothing. And when I say fans were furious, I mean they flooded Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram, calling it nothing less than another assault playing out in broad daylight.
Stop complaining about the officiating. There was a whistle here, a whistle there for every little thing. But I have to say, there were some elbows to the face that just were quite uncalled for, and it created kind of a contentious situation between the two teams. First, it was Napheesa Collier who elbowed Natasha Howard in the face, who fell flat on the floor. You could tell she was very upset, walked up to the referee, arguing with him, Napheesa Collier that is. And just a few minutes later, at an attempt to grab a rebound, Lexie Hull went up, Kayla McBride went up, and Kayla McBride, I don't know if she was just frustrated or something, but she ended up throwing an elbow. So right here you see Lexie going for the ball. She does kind of reach in right there. Oh, it obviously looks like Kayla McBride is frustrated. Lexie falls to the ground. Look at Aaliyah Boston's reaction. Completely shocked.
Now, before anyone jumps to defend the league or brush it off as physical basketball, let's keep one thing in mind. This isn't the first time Indiana players have been singled out this year. Caitlin Clark has been shoved down countless times. Sophie Cunningham has been caught up in plenty of clashes. And now Lexie Hull takes the hit. So at what point do we quit pretending these are normal basketball plays and admit it's an actual problem? Because from where I sit, the WNBA is starting to resemble a league with zero control of its players and little concern for protecting its stars. Think about it. Caitlin Clark is meant to be the face of this whole thing, right? She's the one filling arenas, boosting ratings, and dragging the WNBA into everyday sports talk. But what's she really getting back? Rivals throwing cheap shots, refs keeping their whistles quiet, and the commissioner acting like it's none of her concern. Kathy Engelbert has been nowhere while the league's most marketable star in years gets battered like it's hunting season. And it's not just Caitlin anymore. Now teammates like Lexie Hull are getting caught too. Let's rewind and look at the game itself. Minnesota came out swinging, both literally and in spirit. Napheesa Collier poured in over 30 points.
Does it go? And now it's McBride getting pulled.
Are you?
That one makes
Aaliyah Boston, what the?
Completely dominant. Kelsey Mitchell fought to keep Indiana alive with 26, but missing Caitlin Clark and watching the point guard rotation spin like a carousel of whoever's healthy tonight, you're not winning much. The Fever looked outplayed, outworked, and once that elbow to Hull landed, it felt like the breaking point. Now here's where the sarcasm hits, because apparently Indiana players have mastered a single skill, standing around in disbelief. Lexie gets hit, she's down, and her teammates just watch like somebody ruined their dinner. Where's the fight? Where's the pushback? Where's one teammate stepping up and saying not today? Instead, there's silence. Maybe a few hands on hips. That's it. It almost feels like they've been trained not to respond, which makes sense because every time someone actually does, like Sophie Cunningham trying to get physical, they get branded the villain. Meanwhile, the ones throwing the shots walk away untouched, like nothing even happened. And now the whole conversation has shifted. It's no longer just about Lexie Hull's injury or the Fever dropping another game. It's about the culture that's building in the WNBA. Why does this keep happening? Why are the league's stars the ones constantly being targeted? And why does the league seem more focused on rolling out TikTok dances than addressing something as serious as player safety? Because if this were the NBA, can you even imagine the outrage? If Steph Curry or Luka Doncic took an elbow like that, the league office would have fired off 3 statements, fined half the roster, and suspended refs before the final buzzer. But in the WNBA, there's silence, business as usual, and let's not pretend Indiana hasn't been here before. Go back a few weeks. Caitlin Clark gets hip-checked, shoved, and tossed around. Sophie Cunningham is out there catching heat for simply being Sophie, the one player on Indiana who actually looks ready to play with some edge. And now Lexie Hull gets flat-out assaulted. At some point, fans are asking the same question. Where is the protection? Because if the referees won't step in and if the league won't say a word, then it falls on the teammates. And the Fever play like they'd rather send a polite email than stand up for each other. It's embarrassing. That's the word. Embarrassing. Boston is supposed to be the anchor, the muscle, the tone setter. She's the one who should make opponents think twice. But instead she's stuck giving the shocked face meme. That might work on Instagram, but it doesn't work on the court. Because right now, Indiana looks soft. And that's why teams like Minnesota, Chicago, or even Phoenix think they can throw elbows without a second thought. There's no fear of retaliation. None. Now, to be fair, it's not all on the players. Coaching matters. And let's be real, the Fever's coaching staff has looked clueless in moments like these. You rarely see emotion from the sideline, maybe a flash from Christie's sides when she finally shows some fire, but most of the time it feels like they're playing chess while their players are getting beat down. Compare that to NBA coaches who would have stormed the court, taken an ejection, and made damn sure their team knew they had backup. Indiana's bench, on the other hand, looks like they are just waiting for a dinner table. But let's circle back to the main storyline, Lexie Hull getting assaulted. This wasn't just one cheap shot. It was a symbol of how far Indiana has slipped. They are sitting in 8th place, hanging on to playoff hopes, and now losing players left and right. Even if Caitlin Clark makes it back, is it worth it? Do you risk more injuries just to sneak into the postseason and get bounced in round 1? Or do you shut it down, call this season a loss, and regroup for next year? Fans, for the record, are completely split on that. Some say Clark should come back because every game is valuable for experience. Others argue she should sit out because the league clearly won't protect her. And honestly, both sides have a case. But after watching what happened to Hull, I lean toward keeping Caitlin safe. There's no sense throwing her back into a league that treats her like a punching bag and tries to pass it off as defense. And let's not forget, this isn't just about one team. This is about the league's image. The WNBA wants growth, wants fans, wants those TV deals. But how do you grow when your biggest stars are getting assaulted on national television? Who's tuning in to see Caitlin Clark, Lexie Hull, or Sophie Cunningham hitting the floor every other game? That's not basketball. That's a circus. And casual fans don't stick around for a circus unless the clowns are entertaining, and the WNBA isn't entertaining right now. It's pathetic. Now, let's talk about Kayla McBride because she's not some random bench piece. She's a veteran. She knows better. She's been in this league long enough to understand the difference between physical play and flat-out dirty play. That elbow wasn't defense. That was frustration. That was sending a message. And the fact she walked away without any real consequence says everything about how broken the system has become. And yeah, I can already hear the excuses. Oh, it's just part of the game. Lexie Hull needs to toughen up. Indiana should stop whining. But let's be honest, that's loser talk. There's a clear line between tough defense and reckless cheap shots. The first makes the game worth watching. The second makes fans wonder why they're even tuning in. And right now, the WNBA has way too much of the latter. So here we are. Another Indiana Fever player assaulted. Another game slipped away. Another silent response from the league. Rinse and repeat. Fans are exhausted. And honestly, who can blame them? The Fever might squeeze out one more win against Chicago. But beyond that, things look ugly. This season feels like a train wreck. And unless someone in that locker room finally grows a backbone, it's not turning around anytime soon. Here's the part that really burns fans. The double standard. When Caitlin Clark so much as breathes on a defender, she gets whistled. When Sophie Cunningham bumps someone, she's instantly painted as the villain of the league. But when Kayla McBride throws an elbow that belongs in a UFC reel, crickets. Nothing from the refs, nothing from the league office, nothing from commentators besides a nervous laugh and a quick change of subject. It feels like certain players get free passes depending on their status or the boxes they check. And then there are the teammates, because fans aren't letting this one slide either. The Fever stood around watching Hull get nailed like they were just waiting for the replay on the Jumbotron. Weak. Absolutely weak. Nobody's saying throw punches. Nobody's asking for a WWE cage match. But at least show you care that your teammate just got rocked. Step in, shove somebody back, get in their face, make it clear there's a line. Instead, Indiana looks like a group of bystanders. And that's exactly why this keeps happening. When nobody pushes back, opponents know they can keep taking shots. Compare that to Sophie Cunningham. Love her or hate her, she's the one player who refuses to take garbage from anybody. You remember when coaches had to hold her back. That's what fire looks like. That's what it means to have your teammates' backs. Indiana desperately needs more of that fire because right now it feels like Sophie is out there as a one-woman army while the rest of the roster checks out. And the sad truth is this is damaging the Fever's future just as much as their present. Caitlin Clark entered the league with sky-high expectations and has already endured a season filled with cheap shots. Now Hull is sidelined. Sophie is labeled the villain. And you have to wonder what happens if Clark decides this environment just isn't worth it. If the league continues allowing stars to get targeted, what's stopping the next college phenom from second-guessing the jump to the pros? The WNBA talks about building momentum, but momentum means nothing if your stars are hurt, disrespected, or flat-out fed up. And then there's Kathy Engelbert, the commissioner. At this point, her silence is almost impressive in the worst way. She has this uncanny ability to dodge responsibility like it's her own personal sport. How many times has a Fever player been knocked around this year? How many times has Caitlin Clark been shoved to the floor? How many times has Sophie Cunningham been dragged through the mud just for showing emotion? And still, Kathy stays silent. Maybe she's waiting for the right marketing spin. Maybe she's hoping the controversy just fades away. But fans aren't blind. They see it. They see the favoritism. They see the lack of action. And they are tired of it. Now zoom out for a second. Indiana's season is basically cooked. Seattle, Phoenix, Chicago, and Minnesota are still waiting on the schedule. Best case, they scrape by Chicago. Worst case, they lose out and end the year with nothing but regret. And here's the kicker, even if Caitlin Clark does come back for a game or two, what's the point? You're risking her health for a team that won't defend itself, for a league that refuses to protect her, and for fans already bracing themselves for next year. Sometimes the smartest move is to sit out, regroup, and come back stronger. Of course, the critics will label that soft. They'll say Indiana needs Clark back to compete. But let's be real, this isn't about competing anymore, it's about survival. Because if Lexie Hull's elbow is any sign of what's coming, Clark rushing back would be a disaster waiting to happen. And maybe that's the harsh truth the Fever need. Maybe they have to hit rock bottom before realizing you can't keep letting other teams push you around. The sad part is Indiana actually has talent. Kelsey Mitchell can score with anyone. Boston has the size to control the paint. Hull and Petty bring energy, and Clark is Clark, a once-in-a-generation shooter and playmaker. But none of that matters if the culture stays soft. Until somebody finally decides enough is enough, the Fever will keep getting out-muscled, outplayed, and out-toughed. And fans will keep watching in frustration, waiting for someone to finally show a pulse. Here's the bottom line. Lexie Hull getting assaulted wasn't just one dirty play. It was the perfect snapshot of Indiana's entire season. Soft reactions, zero accountability from the league, and star players left on the floor while opponents celebrate. Fans are furious because they know it doesn't have to be this way. They've seen Sophie bring the fire. They've seen flashes of real competitiveness. But flashes aren't enough. Indiana has to decide if they're going to stay the punching bag of the WNBA or finally push back. Until that happens, expect more elbows, expect more cheap shots, and expect more silence from the top. Because if there's one thing the WNBA has perfected, it's pretending nothing happened. So here we are again, another night, another Fever player on the ground, and still no answers from the league. Fans are fed up, and honestly, they should be. But now I want your take. Do the Fever need to toughen up? Or is this all on the WNBA for refusing to step in? Drop your thoughts below, hit like, and subscribe for more.